Welcome back. We continue with our conversation with outgoing Congressman Ted Deutch. Let's talk about some of the current things going on, some of the news of the day before we talk a little bit more reflectively about your past here. I want to get your reaction to Governor DeSantis's decision to use Florida taxpayer money to send Venezuelan migrants from Texas to Martha's Vineyard.
Look, the things that we found out that we've learned so far, and there will be more investigations, but the idea that people who fled to our country, Venezuelans, especially given the horrific regime that they fled, that they came to our country and were then duped into going somewhere where they thought they were going to be treated with some dignity. They thought that what they had been through would be acknowledged, and instead were dumped in a place that is just unprepared, that wants to help them, but it's just unprepared. I don't think that this whole situation should be about politics. I think it should be about recognizing there's an enormous, look, we could talk for 3 hours about the challenges with what's happening in Latin America and immigration and how we work to have a reasonable immigration policy that starts with a kind of reform that at least, Jim, we still haven't been able to find a path to citizenship for dreamers. It's crazy, but we should be able to treat people with respect. We should be able to treat them with dignity. And for people who are fleeing the awful regime, the Maduro regime, we should be able to come together. And instead, like so much else now, this becomes about politics and using these individuals in this way. I think we're going to have to continue. I'm sure this investigation will continue, I should say.
To what extent do the Democrats bear responsibility here, in part because DeSantis has said the Democrats' failure to recognize the problems along the U.S. southern border led him to do this stunt, for lack of a better word, to call attention to it as a protest to President Biden's failed policies along the border?
Who believes, Jim, that no one is aware of what's happening in Venezuela, that no one is aware of people fleeing to our country, that no one understands that America is a country that has opened its doors to people fleeing political persecution, and that no one is paying attention to what's happening at our border?
Well, the president, I don't even think that, has the president ever visited the border? I don't believe so.
I don't know, but I asked the same question again. Because the question you asked is this the kind of thing that should be done to help raise awareness? And my response to that is, do you really believe that people are unaware of this? And does sending people to a place where that is not able to accommodate them, though they would like to and have a history of opening their community, does that somehow raise awareness about an issue that we're all already aware of? And I think that's a rhetorical question, right? Obviously people have strong feelings about immigration, but to say that this is being done somehow because no one really knew that there were people coming from Venezuela to flee the regime, I don't see it.
Do you believe this is part of DeSantis' strategy to run in 2024?
It doesn't really matter, right? I mean, the real issue isn't the issue for all of us right now ought to be understanding how it is that we treated this group of vulnerable migrants the way that we treated them, and that somehow the idea that it was necessary to elevate an issue that everyone is already tuned into, that's what we have to figure out.
So let's take it out of the political for a second, because
Yeah.
one of the things I thought was most interesting, coincidence of timing, is that the day before this flight from Texas to Martha's Vineyard, the Anti-Defamation League put out a report called "Hate in the Sunshine State," documenting a dramatic rise in white supremacist and anti-Semitic activity in Florida over the past 2 years. We've also seen a rise, this report documents, in anti-immigrant activity. When you vilify a group of people, say immigrants, migrants into this country, and you demonize them and you pose them as a threat, as a danger, you open them up, you empower those hate groups to be even more emboldened, in their actions, because they think they're doing so under the cover of what the governor may be saying in the large term.
I would take a step back from that because and focus on something very specific that you just pointed out, which is really critical, and it's part of the report that you referenced, and it's part of I think an important way to view all of this, which is the rise of these hate groups and the rise of these anti-Semites and the overlap between the two. If you look at the deadliest attack on the Jewish community in American history, at the Tree of Life Synagogue, Jim, the reason that shooter went to that synagogue on that Saturday morning for Shabbat services was because they were recognizing the work of HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. They were recognizing the importance of immigrants and treating immigrants with respect, and the overlap between these white supremacist groups and their anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that contribute to what they do is something that we all have to be focused on. And when you when these groups take the actions that they do, it feeds into the kinds of radicalization like we saw with that shooter in Pittsburgh, the shooter in El Paso, the shooter in Buffalo. Time and time again, it comes from this horrific place of hate, and at its core is this anti-Semitic notion that somehow the Jewish people is working hard to bring in immigrants to replace white Christian America. It's a conspiracy theory that is so dangerous, and it's the reason that we have to work so hard together to address this and to tone down the rhetoric and to recognize and call out this kind of anti-Semitism wherever it comes from, and conspiracy theories on the right or on the far left, and people who substitute Israel in place of Jews, and talking about the way the community is viewed. This is critical for us to tackle right now. It's one of the reasons that I'm heading off to do this full time.
Is there a particular bill that you saw or a law that you were able to get passed that during your 12 years that will be the most significant for you? It may not be the biggest bill, it may not have gotten the most attention, but was there something that you did in particular that you'll look back on and say, I did good that day?
Yes. There's a lot that I've worked on. There are a lot of things I've worked on that we've talked about. I'm proud of the work I've done strengthening the U.S.-Israel relationship. I'm especially proud of standing with the families after Parkland every day since. But there's one thing that really stands out for me that I don't think got a lot of attention, but it really mattered for me, and I think for the country. There was a history in our country, we learned, of discrimination after in the late 50s, early 60s, on into the early 70s. What we learned was that there were people some of the bravest people who ever served in our armed forces, who were denied the Medal of Honor because they were Jewish or Hispanic or African American or had surnames that led the decision makers to reach that conclusion. And so they received the second highest honor, but they never got the Medal of Honor. And I worked really hard with constituents, Mitch Libman and his family in the district, and my colleagues here to change the law and to right that wrong. And was there a day? Yes, the day I sat in the White House and watched President Obama invite up one at a time the families of 24 of the greatest Americans who have ever lived to finally ensure that they received the Medal of Honor and the recognition that they deserved. It's not going to change America for the long term. It's not something that we'll be talking about in the history books, but at that moment, it showed everything that was great about America. These individuals who step up to serve every day, they serve in our military, they serve in our communities all across the country and all over the world, and they so often put their lives at risk and give up their lives for our country. And we had denied them what they deserve, and we fixed that, and that was great.
We'll be right back.